Revealed, how a billionaire CEO's unexpected love for his maid transformed their lives forever. In the heart of Brooklyn, where dreams collide with harsh realities, Sarah stood brow-deep in suds, scrubbing away the remnants of someone else's life. Single mother to 8-year-old Sam, her world spun around the hopes she harbored for his future. Each day, she worked 2 jobs, cleaning houses by day and waiting tables at night, pouring sweat and heart into her labor. But her exhausting effort was fueled by love. As she wiped down countertops and served diners, Sarah radiated warmth, a beacon of strength in a community that had seen its share of hardships. This resilience often led her to organize fundraisers, gathering neighbors to support one another during tough times. Sarah knew the struggle of trying, of fighting for every scrap of happiness, and she refused to let anyone buckle under life's crushing weight. She was determined that Sam would never know the sting of despair that surrounded them. Across the bustling streets of Brooklyn, in a world vastly different from Sarah's, Jack lived in the high rise of success. An ambitious CEO in the tech industry, he was a titan among men, exuding confidence and power. Yet beneath the polished surface lurked loneliness, a weighty reputation that felt more like shackles than accolades. At a charity gala, where expectations clinked glasses with pretense, their lives would intertwine in an unexpected twist of fate. While at a crowded buffet table, Sarah, juggling too many trays, accidentally spilled a drink on Jack's pristine suit. Awkwardness hung thick in the air as they exchanged irritated glances. But as Jack wiped away the wine, a flicker of amusement sparked in his eyes, and Sarah caught a glimpse of the fragility beneath his mighty facade. From that moment, their lives slid into a dance of unlikely friendship. Jack hired Sarah as his personal maid, drawing her into a world of luxury she had only imagined. Their late-night conversations veered from light-hearted banter to deep vulnerability, each revealing their struggles. Sarah spoke of sleepless nights worrying about Sam's school and food on the table, while Jack confessed his fears of inadequacy among those who only saw his bank balance instead of the man behind the suit. Then came the storm that threatened to pull them apart. Jack's company faced a scandal, accusations swirling like wildfires in a dry season. In this chaos, Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Could she stand by a man deemed unethical, when every decision counted in her fight for Sam's stability? Their bond, once solid, now rested on a precipice, anxieties intermingling between them like a tangled thread. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. At the same time, the community was on the verge of losing the only park they had, as developers planned to tear it down for luxury apartments. Fueled with passion, Sarah rallied her neighbors, refusing to take the losses lying down. When she stood up at the town hall meeting, her fierce spirit lit up the room, igniting a campaign that reverberated through Brooklyn. And then, in a surprising twist, Jack stepped forward in her defense. He used his resources, his influence, to stand beside Sarah, realizing the worth in her dedication and fight for their community. Blurred lines began to sharpen, igniting feelings that neither expected, nor dared to speak. Yet as whispers of the scandal persisted and shadows loomed over their lives, questions gnawed at Sarah. Could her faith in Jack survive this turmoil? Would their shared fight end in victory, or was it destined to crumble under the weight of reality? With stakes high and trust hanging by a thread, the story hung in the balance, a powerful testimony of 2 lives on a collision path. As Sarah contemplated her next move, the weight of their journey pressed down, leaving readers yearning to discover what would come next. Would love triumph amidst chaos, or would fear and doubt tear them apart forever? The town hall meeting buzzed with energy, a palpable tension wrapped in anticipation. Sarah stood at the front, her heart pounding like a war drum. She glanced at Jack beside her, his calm demeanor a quiet reassurance amid the storm. This was at the culmination of sleepless nights and heartfelt planning. They were fighting not just for the park, but for a community, a home. As the debate unfolded, Sarah's passion burned bright. She spoke with conviction, recalling childhood memories spent playing in the park, hiding beneath its vast oak trees and feeling the sun warm her face. "This is where we laughed, where we cried, where dreams were born." Her words hung in the air, weaving through the crowd, sparking nods of agreement and murmurs of support. Jack watched her, captivated. With each word, Sarah transformed into a leader, a warrior for her people. He felt admiration swelling within him. She was more than the woman he'd grown to care for. She was the heart of Brooklyn, beating louder each time she connected with the crowd. Yet doubt whispered in his mind. Did they have the strength to fight together against the tide of scandal threatening to engulf him? As the night deepened, voices clashed, but Sarah's unwavering spirit drew people closer. She spoke of hope, of resilience, of a future where children could play freely without the threat of relentless progress pushing them out. "We must preserve what makes us who we are." A cheer erupted, invigorating the room, washing over her, filling her with purpose. Yet, in the shadows, murmurs turned into pointed accusations. Someone shouted, "Why should we trust a billionaire when his name is thrown into the mud? He's not one of us." The comment hit like a brick, and Sarah felt a wave of panic rise. Would they turn against Jack? Would they see him as nothing more than a scandal that could ruin their cause? With a steady breath, Sarah faced the crowd. "Jack is with us. He stands for our community, our future." She felt her voice trembling, but pushed on. "Sometimes, we mistake the things we don't understand for reasons to distrust. Don't judge a man by rumors alone." Jack stared at her, surprise mingling with admiration, a raw connection sparking in that moment. He knew he couldn't hide behind her strength anymore. The time had come to speak. Stepping forward, he took a deep breath, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. "I understand your concerns, and I am not here to sugarcoat my past or the mistakes I've made." The room went silent. "But I am here to say that I want to help this community. I've watched Sarah fight for you and it has inspired me to do better. Together we can turn this park into a sanctuary not just for now, but for generations to come." He glanced at Sarah, her eyes shining bright with hope, but also shadowed by uncertainty. Would his words be enough to bridge the gap that created doubt? The energy in the room was electric, a mix of hope and skepticism swirling in the air. Just as applause began to rise, the chaos erupted. A sudden protest outside, voices screaming accusations. "Scam artist! Hypocrite!" The shouts pierced through the fragile unity, sending tension rippling through the meeting. While Sarah stood frozen, Jack clenched his fists, ready to leap into action. They needed to act quickly. "Let us go see what's happening," Jack urged, pulling Sarah along. As they stepped out into the chill of the night, faces filled with determination and anger, Sarah's mind raced. How could they calm the storm brewing amongst the crowd? Would they face the wrath of the townsfolk or find a way to unite them? Despite the tumultuous tide pulling them apart, the uncertainty loomed heavy as they approached the angry voices. A moment of truth awaited them both. Would their actions define their destinies, or would this be the moment that shattered everything they had fought for? The path ahead was unclear, charge surging in the air as they braced for what was next. The scene outside was chaotic. A sea of faces, twisted with anger and suspicion, surged forward, some yelling, some shoving. Sarah felt her heart thumping loudly in her chest, a stark contrast to the chill of the evening air. Jack squeezed her hand, a silent promise that they would face this together. As they approached, the voices grew louder, sharper. "You don't belong here," someone screamed, pointing at Jack. "We don't want your money or your empty promises." The crowd swelled and shifted, a living entity fueled by fear and frustration. Jack took a deep breath, adrenaline pushing him forward. "I'm here to listen," he called out, his voice attempting to break through the clamor. "Please, let us talk." But the crowd felt a wave of indignation instead. "Talk? You think words will change anything?" A man shot back, his face flushed. You think we'll trust someone who has made a fortune off our backs? The word sliced through Sarah like a knife. They were fighting for so much more than a park. They were battling the deep-seated doubts that came with when one's life didn't match another's privilege. She knew the media had twisted Jack's past, playing up his mistakes like a tabloid villain. But to see this community, her community, turning against him stung like salt in an open wound. Jack! She called out, feeling the urgency in her voice. Let me speak. Jack paused, his eyes darting to her. There was a flash of uncertainty before he nodded, his grip on her hand loosening just enough for her to step forward. Taking a deep breath, she faced the mob. I understand your anger, she exclaimed, her voice resonating with sincerity. But we're not just fighting for a park. We're fighting for the heart of our community, for our children's future. The crowd quieted, curiosity momentarily replacing anger. Jack made mistakes, just like all of us have. But he is here now, and he wants to make things right. Look at what he is trying to do. Make things right? A woman shouted, arms crossed defiantly. How can we believe that? Sarah's heart pounded. I've seen it. I've seen how hard he has fought for the things we hold dear. This isn't just about a piece of land, it's about our stories, our memories. She glanced at Jack, who was listening intently. He is standing here, ready to stand with us, if we let him. This is our chance to make a difference. The energy shifted, a softening in some faces, but others remained hardened. Doubt hung thick in the night. You can't trust him, shouted the same man as before. He'll sell us out at the first chance. Jack took a step forward, focused and direct. You're right to be wary. I don't expect trust just because I want it. I want to earn it. Suddenly, a young girl spoke up from the back of the crowd. He helped fix our playground last summer. Her small voice cut through the tension, a tiny flame amidst the fury. He really cares. My mom says he does. The murmurs shifted again, and Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Could they turn the tide? Could they make a connection strong enough to overcome the animosity? But doubt lingered in the edges of the crowd. The angry voices were still there, waiting, ready to surge back. Sarah's stomach nodded, the moment hung heavy with possibility, like a delayed train on the tracks. Would they be able to shift from suspicion to collaboration? But she thought, inwardly groaning at the weight of the road ahead. Would this be the turning point they needed, or would their moment of vulnerability open the floodgates for even more accusations? Will you stand with us for the park? Jack's voice resounded. In that moment, the community stood at a crossroads, and Sarah could only hope that their feelings were stronger than their fears. What would happen when the next words were spoken? The crowd fell silent for a moment, caught in the push and pull of their emotions. Faces flashed with uncertainty as they scanned each other, weighing the possibility of trust against years of betrayal. Sarah's own heart raced, she could feel every heartbeat echoing in the thin air between them, as alive with tension as the nervous whispers growing in the crowd. Let us just give him a chance, Sarah urged, her voice rising again, contagious hope wrapping around her words. We can't change the past, but we can build a future. Right here, together. Uncertainty danced in the eyes of her neighbors. Some exchanged hesitant looks, nodding just slightly, almost imperceptibly, while others remained fixed in their conviction, arms crossed defiantly. The woman who had shouted earlier was still glaring at Jack, searching for flaws, for a hint of insincerity. Jack stepped back, relaxing his posture just enough to show vulnerability. I know I have a long way to go, he began, his voice softer now. But I mean it when I say I want to hear from all of you. I want to help, not just as someone who had a stake in this land, but as a member of this community, too. He looked at Sarah, then back at the crowd, his eyes sincere. Your stories, your struggles, they matter to me. A figure in the crowd, one of the neighborhood elders, a strong woman with graying hair pulled tightly into a bun, took a deliberate step forward. Her gaze fixed on Jack. Words are just that, words. They don't mean anything unless you prove they come from the heart. The crowd held its breath as Jack nodded solemnly. Then let us do that. Let us meet, let us create forums to talk about our future. I'll fund community projects. I'll support initiatives that matter, he promised, glancing at Sarah for support. We've got to start somewhere. Those last words seemed to linger long after they left his lips. People shifted, uncertain. Inside Sarah, a flicker of light ignited. She could sense the slightest crack in the tension, a chink in the wall of doubt. Prove it, a voice called out from the back, tinged with challenge but tinged with curiosity, too. Don't just give us another empty promise. All I'm asking for is a chance, Jack replied urgently, his voice now thick with emotion. Then we'll need to see real action, came a deeper voice, strong and steady. A large man stepped forward, his brow furrowed in thought. Words aren't enough anymore. Show us that you're willing to fight for us. The crowd began to murmur, pulses of skepticism and cautious optimism mingling in the air. It was as if all of them were waiting for the pendulum to swing one way or the other, unsure whether they were ready to open their hearts, only to be heard again. Suddenly, a shrill voice pierced the moment. You've already got your wealth and power. What more do you want? Another figure emerged, pointing a finger at Jack with a fierce defiance that ignited tension anew. You can't buy our trust. Maybe I can't, Jack shot back, determination igniting in his eyes. But I can prove I want to be better. And if I can't do that, then I have no right to be here. Sarah felt her stomach twist in a knot again, torn between hope and despair. If this moment fell apart, would they rebuild the trust lost, or would they spiral further into bitterness and distrust? As the crowd began to speak among themselves, the air thick with lingering doubt, she realized they weren't just fighting for the park anymore. They were fighting for their dignity, their sense of belonging. Jack turned and looked at Sarah, and in his gaze, she felt an unspoken question. Would they find a path forward in this chaos? Before she could respond, the murmur crescendoed into an argument, voices rising like a tide ready to crash. We won't let you take our land. Someone shouted, Sarah's pulse raced. What would she say now to quell this roaring storm? With a heart full of hope and a gut twisting with worry, she braced herself to speak again. What would she say next? Would it heal the widening rift or push them further apart? The crowd erupted again, voices overlapping in a cacophony of anger and fear. Jack's hands clenched at his sides as he stepped forward, a transformative determination glowing in his eyes. But Sarah could see the tension etched on his face, the way he fought to maintain his composure. This was a pivotal moment, and they were all teetering on the edge of chaos. Listen! Jack shouted above the thrumming voices, his tone desperate yet commanding. I'm not here to take anything from you. I want to stand with you. I want to heal what has been broken. He looked from face to face, willing them to see the sincerity behind his words. A woman with tears glistening in her eyes shot back, You think it's that easy? After everything we've lost? You expect us to just trust you? What's the alternative? Jack asked, his voice trembling. Let this cycle of anger and division destroy us? We've all felt the weight of our past. But we can forge a new path. We can reclaim this land together. I'm begging you to let me prove I'm serious. Sarah felt a swell of emotion rise within her. She thought of the park, the memories etched into its trees, the laughter of children playing, the community gatherings that had once brought everyone together. It was more than just land, it was a lifeline. She focused on the elderly woman, whose eyes had softened a bit at Jack's plea. This isn't just about trust, she called out gently. It's about hope. We have to move forward if we ever want to heal. But how? Someone asked from the back, skepticism still coloring their voice. What can he really do? Change starts with conversation, Sarah interjected, her own heart racing. Let us give him a chance to engage with us, to listen. Everyone deserves that opportunity, don't you think? The crowd swayed, uncertainty lingering in the air. Her own words felt daunting, but a small flicker of hope grounded her. They had spent too long in darkness. This was a chance to step into the light. "All right," Jack said, taking a deep breath, his resolve sharpening. "I challenge each of you to engage. I'll set up community meetings, fund local projects, and I'll be there. I won't hide behind my wealth. We'll work together. Let us make this happen." Words still mean nothing if they're just promises. The woman with the fierce eyes stood firm. But Sarah could see a hint of hesitation now. "Show us your commitment. Actions speak louder." "That's fair," Jack replied, nodding eagerly. "What if I help you organize a community event? A cleanup for the park, perhaps, or a local market where we can all share our gifts. You guys know how to bring people together. I just want to assist. Will you do it, really?" Another voice called out, weaker now, but ripe with curiosity. "You can't just throw money around and expect us to fall for it, Jack." "No money for trust," he affirmed, his expression raw with honesty. "Just my dedication. If we make this event a success and if you feel I've lived up to my word, then perhaps we can start to rebuild." The crowd seemed less like a pack of wolves now, their skepticism still there, but the thrum was shifting. A glimmer of cautious optimism peeked through cynical armor. Sarah could see the first tendrils of change wrapping around them, tying everyone together in a fragile yet tangible way. As murmurs danced in the air, she could sense a shift, like a blanket slowly unwrapping from a weary soul. Those hearts that remained closed felt a small stir of curiosity. Would this chance be enough to bury old wounds? Would Jack's efforts truly spark a flame of hope in a community that had long felt forsaken? What if this is just the beginning? Sarah thought, tears prickling her eyes as she studied Jack's earnest face. But deep down, beneath the hope simmering between them, another question loomed: what if they stumbled? What if this fragile promise shattered? That uncertainty hung in the air, thick as fog, leaving Sarah wondering how the fragile bridge they were building would endure the weight of their past. The crowd continued to converse, but the direction of their voices had shifted, teetering on the brink of a decision. Would their collective will rise to meet this moment, or would it dissolve into old fears? The murmurs swelled into a low roar, the crowd buzzing with a mix of hope and doubt. Jack stood there, heart thumping in his chest, each second pressing down like a weight. He could sense it. There was a shift. The anger simmering in their voices began to blend with curiosity, hesitation giving way to something almost like anticipation. "Okay, listen up." A man's voice rang out from the middle of the crowd. He was a tall figure, wearing a weathered baseball cap. "Let us say we all agree to this. What do we really need to do to make a change? It ain't just about cleaning up the park, is it?" Jack met the man's gaze, eager for this inquiry to open the door wider. "No, it's not," he replied, warming to the conversation. "It's about connection. It's about finding out what each of us needs." Expressions flicked across the crowd, some glimmers of recognition, some widening eyes full of doubt. Jack continued, "We have to listen. I want to hear your stories. The real stories of this community. From the challenges you face every day to the dreams you've put on hold because of this division." "Dreams?" A woman spat out the word, her voice thick with a mix of disbelief and a hint of longing. "Like how we could have a community center or a safe space for our kids. We've been dreaming for years and look where it's landed us." "Yes. Exactly," Jack exclaimed, igniting a spark in the hearts of those around him. "You deserve those things. You deserve a space that celebrates your kids, your talents, your culture. And I can help, but only if we do it together. Let us bring those dreams into reality." Another voice piped up. It was a younger man, leaning against a nearby lamppost. "And how do we know you won't bail as soon as the press stops paying you attention? You'll just take off back to your big life, right?" Jack looked around, absorbing the skepticism. "I get it. Really. That mistrust is earned after so much loss. The truth is, I have no intention of abandoning this community. I can't afford to walk away from this. I'm here until we build what's needed together. A woman in the front nodded, her arms crossed tightly. You're asking us to trust you. If you're going to be here, you'll need to be part of our struggles. I want to be. Jack said, his voice rising above the crowd. I want to be at those community meetings, on the cleanup days, engaging every step of the way. I want to feel what you feel, know your kids, understand your fears and your hopes. At her side, Sarah felt a flicker of warmth at Jack's words. Could he truly mean this? Was he willing to step into their lives, to embrace the reality they faced together? It hung in the air, a question as heavy as the humid summer day. A ripple of agreement threaded through the crowd, but the tension was still palpable. They needed more than promises. Jack would have to prove himself in the days ahead. Okay, the man with the cap said, arms unfolding. Let us see what we're up against. Let us organize a meeting. If you're really serious, you'll show up. But no more empty words. Deal. Jack replied without hesitation, relief washing over his features. As the crowd slowly began to disperse, the heaviness of moments before felt lighter. Hope began carving pathways through their uncertainties. Jack turned to Sarah, his eyes gleaming. Did you see that? They're beginning to connect. Yes, she said quietly, the weight of the previous conversation still a backdrop to their budding possibility. But it's fragile. What if they don't see it through? Then we adapt, and try again. Together, Jack whispered, an even deeper resolve woven into his response. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled ominously, hinting at rain. As they ventured back, Sarah's heart raced, not from fear, but from an undercurrent of excitement tangled with the looming question: could this be the start of something truly transformative? As they made plans for the upcoming meeting, Sarah knew they had to be ready to confront the past and to embrace the unpredictable journey ahead. Her gaze drifted back to the park. Would it one day resonate with laughter? Again, days stretched out ahead, lined with uncertainty but glimmers of hope. Would their combined strength ignite the fire of change, or would they stumble before they could even begin? The air crackled, charged with the possibility of either outcome. The morning dawned with thick, gray clouds hanging low, a heavy promise of rain shifting the air. Jack busied himself with a makeshift plan, his mind racing with ideas on how to bring the community together. He could feel the energy, the hope that had been rekindled the day before, but uncertainty loomed like the dark sky overhead. Jack, what's the agenda for the meeting tonight? Sarah's voice brought him back. She was sitting at a sun-drenched table, armed with a notepad and an eager expression that he glanced up, noting the way her eyes sparkled with responsibility. We need to keep it simple. We'll start with personal stories encouraging people to share what matters most. Then we can brainstorm practical projects. And we really think they'll open up? She asked, biting her lip. Jack nodded, a weight settling in his chest. If we create a safe space, they'll feel encouraged. They want to be heard. It's the first step, and we need to make them realize their voices matter. With Sarah's help, he crafted flyers to spread around the neighborhood, each one echoing the promise of change. Come share your stories. Let us build our dreams together. The words rolled off his tongue like music, vibrant and full of promise. As night approached, the streets began to fill with unfamiliar faces, clusters of neighbors hesitant yet hopeful, some clinging to their children for comfort. Jack's stomach knotted with nerves. Would they trust him? Would they share? The small community center felt alive, a heartbeat pulsing through the rooms as laughter and whispers bounced off the walls. The crowd gathered, and Jack took center stage. Thank you all for coming. Tonight isn't about me, it's about you and everything you've been holding inside. The room tensed, eyes darted. Jack encouraged them to speak up. I know it's hard, but let us take this first step by sharing our struggles, our dreams. We can't do this alone. A middle-aged man stood, his voice hoarse. You don't understand what it's like. My kids need an education that doesn't involve dodging violence or dragging them through the dirt. We're fighting just to keep our heads above water." Gasps filled the room. Jack's heart broke. "That's why we need each other," he implored gently. "Together, we can create safe spaces, nurture those dreams." "What does that look like to you?" A young girl's voice piped up from the back. "A playground." The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to her. "We can't play anywhere. The park is dangerous. I just want to swing." The sincerity of her wish echoed like a bell in the room. "Why don't we start there?" Sarah chimed in, her voice weaving into the atmosphere. "A safe park for our kids. It's just a start." A ripple of chatter surged through the crowd. Jack watched with bated breath as they slowly began to connect, sharing ideas, building from one another's dreams. It felt like magic, a tapestry being woven with threads of hope and grit, but after the initial excitement, a sense of uncertainty crept back. As the night wore on, Jack saw the flickers of doubt in their eyes, the hesitance creeping back. What if they couldn't follow through? What if this evening wasn't enough? "I don't want to set ourselves up for disappointment," one woman said quietly, her voice threading through the murmurs. Jack felt the unease ripple through the crowd. "I know it's hard, and it won't be easy. But if we build this together, piece by piece, we can make something beautiful." The energy began to shift again, but the resolve was still soft, even fragile. Jack realized this was a pivotal moment. Could he keep this momentum going? As the meeting drew to a close, Sarah caught his eye. She understood, her expression speaking volumes. They had opened a door, but the real challenge lay ahead. As the crowd began to filter out, Jack stepped outside, rain beginning to fall lightly. He welcomed the cool droplets, grounding him amidst a rising storm of emotions. He felt he had lit a spark, but what fires might it ignite? With the promise of change brushing against his skin, he knew it wouldn't just take his words, it would take their collective heart. Could the community hold on to this flame long enough to transform their world? As they walked back together, Sarah asked, "What happens if they turn away again? What do we do then?" With a deep breath, Jack replied, "One step at a time. We keep trying, no matter what." Their uncertain future loomed ahead, igniting both trepidation and anticipation, as thunder rolled across the sky. Would they endure or falter when the storm swept through? The next morning, Jack awoke to the rhythmic patter of rain against his window. The world outside felt renewed, washed clean yet heavy under the clouds. He lay there for a moment, recalling the voices of last night, the passion and the doubt entwined in a dance. It was more than a dream now, it was a call to action. The question loomed large. What would come next? He dressed quickly and headed to the cafe where the community often gathered. It smelled like fresh coffee and baked goods, a familiar comfort. Sarah was already there, flipping through her notes while sipping on her usual chai. Jack slid into the seat across from her. "Did you sleep?" she asked, concern etching her brow. "Not much. But I can't help it. I keep thinking about the ideas they shared, the little girl's wish for a swing set." "We need to make it happen," Jack replied, his voice a low hum of excitement. "I think we can," Sarah said, leaning in, her eyes lighting up. "But we need to rally more support. We should set up a follow-up meeting. Maybe even a planning committee." "Great idea," Jack exclaimed, his heartbeat picking up. "But we need to raise awareness first. What if we share this story? Highlight what that playground means for the community. Get some local media involved." A smile crept across Sarah's face as she grabbed a napkin and began scribbling ideas. "We can share real stories, the struggle, the hope. We can show them that this isn't just about swings. It's about safety, freedom, a place where kids can just be kids." Jack felt a rush of inspiration. They could use social media, reach out to local news outlets, even set up a crowdfunding page. The more he thought about it, the more the plan took shape in his mind. They wouldn't just be rescuing a dream, they could ignite a movement. As they strategized, the door swung open to reveal a wave of familiar faces. Neighbors filtering in, some wearing raincoats and carrying umbrellas, but their spirits were high. Jack smiled, realizing that the spark had blossomed into something tangible. One by one, he pulled them into the conversation, inviting storytellers, dreamers, and supporters. The cafe became a swirl of energy as old stories intertwined with hopeful plans. Ideas flew back and forth, laughter punctured the air. Jack felt his heart swell, believing more than ever that their voices, loud and unified, could break through the heavy clouds hanging overhead, but through the chatter, he couldn't shake the lingering unease. Would this momentum last? What if they faced resistance? As people left, he wouldn't have the safety of the cafe to blanket them. Would they still feel brave enough to lift their voices? Jack, Sarah interrupted his thoughts. What if we set up a community event, a picnic or something where everyone can bring their own favorite food? We could have activities for the kids, and at the same time, we can gather support for the park. Brilliant. We need something visible, vibrant, something to draw people in, Jack replied, feeling urgency prick at his skin. But let us make sure that everyone feels welcomed, not just the usual crowd. We need to reach beyond our bubbles. The notion filled him with a renewed sense of purpose. They spent the next hour drafting flyers, creating a buzz in the neighborhood, making it clear that this was just the beginning. As the rain subsided, Jack stepped out onto the damp pavement, the world feeling alive with possibility. But deep down, a storm of anxiety churned. Could he sustain their momentum? What if they fell back into silence? The answer felt too heavy to hold. So he took a deep breath and whispered to himself, one step at a time. The road ahead remained uncertain, yet each footstep echoed with the laughter and dreams they had created together. Just then, he spotted a curious child peeking out from an alley, eyes wide with wonder. The child smiled, and for a moment, Jack saw that spark of hope reflected. But as the child disappeared around the corner, a new question began to take root in his mind. Would they truly embrace change, or would fear pull them back into the shadows? Determined, Jack turned to Sarah. Let us do this. Let us make that picnic happen. And who knows? Maybe this is how we'll break fear's grip once and for all. As they walked side by side, the energy surrounding them pulsed with anticipation. Would their community unite and rise, or would doubt shadow their dreams, leaving them in turmoil once again? The day of the picnic loomed closer, and Jack could hardly contain his excitement. Each morning, the sun peeked through the clouds, reminder that his dream of building a playground was inching closer to reality. With Sarah by his side, they had transformed their ideas into actionable plans. They met daily, a whirlwind of phone calls, emails, and organizing flyers that now blanketed the community, but as the picnic day approached, doubt threaded its way through Jack's optimism. What if no one showed up? He envisioned the park, filled with laughter and shouts of joy. Yet, a voice in the back of his mind whispered, what if only a handful of friends and family come? It was a nagging fear that he just couldn't shake. The night before the event, he sat alone in his living room, the glow of his laptop illuminating his face. He navigated through social media feeds, looking at the posts he and Sarah had created. They had poured so much heart into this. But as he clicked through the engagement metrics, his heart sank. The likes and shares weren't as many as he had hoped. Jack. You ready for tomorrow? Sarah's voice sliced through the gloom. He looked up to see her framed in the doorway, a basket overflowing with homemade guacamole in her hands. I am, but he paused, trying to gather the right words, I just don't want to let everyone down. Listen, she said, setting the basket down on the table and sitting next to him. You've already done so much. This is about building connections, not just a park. If we get a few people, if we spark even one heart to believe in this, then we've succeeded. He nodded, but the weight of uncertainty still rested heavily on his shoulders. That night, Jack fell asleep with thoughts swirling in his mind. He dreamt of the park filled with children swinging, laughing, and playing. But happiness quickly morphed into shadows of doubt as images of his friends walking away, disappointed, clouded his dreams. Morning dawned bright and clear, the air crisp and cool. Jack awoke to an unexpected energy pulsing through him. That doubt, once a heavy anchor, transformed into determination. He dressed quickly and headed out, the sunlight warming his skin. The park was alive with color as they began to set up. Banners hung from trees, bright and welcoming, and tables filled with food lined the edges. Slowly, more people arrived. Families came carrying dishes, laughter bubbling over as children raced to the swings that weren't yet built. Jack! Look at this! A group of kids came showing off their handmade signs, paint still smeared on their hands. They wanted to put them up around the park, each sign bursting with their dreams and wishes for the playground. Their enthusiasm hit him like a wave, tears of joy blurred his vision as neighbors he hadn't seen in years began to arrive. They greeted him and shared stories, their voices weaving a tapestry of hope that hung above the picnic like the sun itself. Conversations flourished, and Jack began to understand this was more than just a playground, it was a community rising together. But just as the warmth of joy swirled around him, a familiar face appeared at the edge of the crowd. It was Mark, the skeptical neighbor who had always scoffed at any attempt to unite the community. Jack's heart thudded with nervousness. Would he douse their enthusiasm with negativity? Jack steeled himself, watching as Mark approached, arms crossed, eyes narrowing. Then, as he got closer, something unexpected happened. Instead of the typical dismissal Jack feared, Mark's face softened. "Jack," he said, a hesitant smile breaking through the tough exterior, "I have to admit, I didn't think you'd actually pull this off. It's pretty great." Jack felt a rush of relief surge through him. Maybe, just maybe, they were really building something special. But before he could fully process this shift, a shrill whistle cut through the air. It was Sarah, waving her arms, calling the children to gather around for a game. The energy shifted again, and smiles spread like sunlight. As their laughter filled the park, Jack realized the real transformation was unfolding before him, a community not just driven by hope, but woven together in the act of dreaming. Yet amidst the joy, a deeper unease masked beneath the surface lurked. Could they sustain this energy? Just then, Sarah approached him, a sparkle of mischief in her eyes. "I have an idea that might surprise everyone, especially Mark. But first, how would you feel about a little challenge that could change everything?" And in that moment, Jack felt a familiar surge of excitement. What was she planning? The picnic seemed to hold even more potential than he had imagined, and suddenly, the journey felt just as important as the destination. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden light over the park, the picnic transformed into a festival of laughter, connection, and hope. Children dashed around, clutching cups of lemonade, while families mingled, their conversations punctuated by moments of joy. Jack stood next to Sarah, both of them beaming, overwhelmed by the vibrant spirit that thrived here. "Jack," Sarah began, her eyes glinting with mischief, "I was thinking we should organize a small competition. Something fun that engages the parents too. How about a tug-of-war between the community and our special guest?" Jack raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Special guest? Who do you have in mind?" Her smile widened. "You. The CEO who is trying to connect with the community." He chuckled, uncertainty mingling with excitement. "You want me to pull against them? I'll get torn to pieces." But Sarah just waved her hand dismissively. "It's perfect. It'll show that you're one of us, that you're willing to bring your wealth to the ground level literally. Plus, it'll raise spirits and strengthen the bond we've just begun to build." Before he could protest, Sarah raced to gather volunteers, her spirit infectious. The parents quickly jumped on board, laughter filling the air as more and more joined in, and soon the crowd was buzzing with anticipation. When the moment arrived, Sarah called everyone together, her voice carrying over the merriment. "Ladies and gentlemen. Today, we challenge Jack, our wealthy friend who wants to change things around here. Let us see if he can stand against Brooklyn's strongest. The crowd erupted into cheers. Jack's heart pounded as he stood in front of them, laughter bubbling. "All right, let us do this." As he took his position, surrounded by local families who were ready to pull with all their might, he felt something shift within him. These were people he had only seen from a distance, now standing shoulder to shoulder united, fierce, and full of heart. The camaraderie warmed him, and for the first time since he arrived, he felt like a true part of this community. They pulled and strained against each other, their faces a mix of determination and laughter. When Sarah shouted, "On 3," the rope tightened, and he felt the determined spirit of the neighborhood push against him. He dug his feet into the grass, muscles straining, but as the competition raged on, and laughter harmonized with shouts of encouragement, he realized this was about more than winning or losing. It was about them finding strength in unity. Families were coming together, bargaining their differences, and forging bonds in a way he never expected. Finally, with one colossal heave, the community pulled him and his team down with raucous laughter and cheers. Jack landed in the grass grinning and out of breath, feeling utterly elated. "Okay. You got me," he exclaimed through laughter, registering the glow of jubilation on everyone's faces. As the parents gathered around him, panting from the effort, something ignited in Jack. "You know what? I may have lost the tug-of-war, but I want to win in a different way. Let us channel this momentum into our dreams for the park." He stood up, wiping grass off his shirt, his heart swelling with determination. "Let us keep organizing events, plan cleanups, and raise funds together. This park, it can be our symbol, our shared victory." The crowd erupted in enthusiastic agreement. New ideas surged: community gardens, playground designs that involved children's creativity, and facilities that would cater to everyone. As night settled in, the stars began to twinkle, reflecting a sense of possibility in Jack's heart. Sarah stood beside him, her eyes twinkling too. "Did you see that?" she said, excitement bubbling in her voice. "They're coming together. You've inspired them." Jack felt a warmth spreading through him, realizing that through their collective efforts, it was their shared dreams that had the power to breathe life into their community. It was about hope and resilience, about reminding each other that they mattered. At that moment, Jack turned to Sarah, seeing the fiery passion that drove her. "Thank you for believing in me. You've shown me that together we can create something beautiful." And as they looked at the community blossoming before them, the joy, the laughter, the dreams, they both knew this was just the beginning. They had woven trust into a fragile but strong fabric, holding the neighborhood together, preparing for the bright future that lay ahead. "Onward," Jack declared, raising his cup of lemonade. "Here's to Brooklyn." "To Brooklyn," everyone echoed. The night shone brighter, filled with laughter and possibility, and Jack felt the weight of hope settle over them all like a warm embrace. As they chatted and celebrated, he discreetly took Sarah's hand, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had embarked on together, the journey of love, resilience, and the belief that every shared moment mattered. Would this momentum carry them through? Would the changes they dreamed of truly take root? Only time would tell. But in that moment, as the stars glimmered above, they would embrace it all together. Now is the time to take action. You need to subscribe now so you won't miss these exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for this incredible journey. Comment below and share your reactions and feelings about this heartwarming ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let's spread hope and resilience together.